Hello everyone. Welcome once again to the Self-Knowledge course. Today we have a very interesting conference, in which we will learn to achieve the state of meditation known as Samadhi, or Illuminating Void, through the use of Koans. This is a very simple and practical way to experience the reality of the sixth and seventh dimensions of nature. These are dimensions that are governed by only 6 and 3 laws respectively, in contrast to this physical world where we are subject to 48 laws. So, to live this meditation is to experience being free from the ego for a moment and being one with our inner real being. This will completely change your perception of life and will make you understand the urgency of making a radical change within yourself, to free yourself from the heaviness and mechanicalness to which your ego has subjected you. When we return from this meditation, we come back with great strength to continue with our inner work and permanently achieve those states of plenitude and happiness. So, the objective of today's conference will be to learn a technique that will allow us to know and experience those higher dimensions of nature and access the vast wisdom of our being. Let's start this topic by talking a little about what meditation is. Meditation is the way to achieve inner silence and connect with our own inner wisdom. It is said that meditation is the bread of the wise. And this is because our consciousness is nourished when we eliminate the ego, which is the ignorance in us, and we receive the wisdom of our inner Father. Hence the need to learn to meditate, because those who don't know how to meditate will never be able to dissolve the ego. And to really learn to meditate, the first thing we must keep in mind is that we must start to be serious and put aside so many meditations that abound everywhere, and that don't lead us to really experience changes in ourselves. We can find many types of meditation by all means. However, we can summarize them into 2 general types: contemplative meditations and transcendental meditations. Contemplative meditations are a real waste of time if we really want to advance in our inner work. Those are meditations that are not going to lead us to achieve changes in ourselves. They are very beautiful meditations, which lead us to feel relaxed, to feel a moment of harmony and peace when listening to relaxing sounds or when concentrating on something. But the state of relaxation and harmony that we achieve with these meditations lasts as long as the meditation lasts. As since it does not lead us to an internal change, as soon as we face the inevitable circumstances of life such as a disappointment, an accident, an argument, an identification with any problem, or circumstance, etc., we immediately lose that state of harmony that we had achieved with this type of meditation. On the contrary, meditations of a transcendental nature will lead us to achieve changes within ourselves. Therefore, each time we practice one of these meditations, we will be different people, we will bring understandings that will lead us to radically change our inner world, and by law of correspondence, our life. Here, in this self-knowledge course, we already learned a type of transcendental meditation, which is reflective meditation. We learned it in Lecture 22. There, we saw that reflective meditation consists of bringing to meditation a lived scene in which a psychological defect that we want to work on and that we want to eradicate from our psychology has strongly manifested itself in us. Then, in that meditation, we observe in detail the manifestation of that psychological defect in that lived scene. We divide ourselves between the observer and the observed, and we observe what it made us imagine, what it made us feel and desire, and at the same time we consciously understand and eliminate each of the details of the defects that we discover on that scene. Each reflective meditation we do will lead us to self-transformation, since the next time we find ourselves in a circumstance in which the defect we have worked on used to manifest, we will no longer react in the same way. We will have an understanding about it, which will lead us to act consciously, without being any more subjected or enslaved by this defect. And the wonderful thing is that we can do this meditation with every psychological defect that we want to eliminate from ourselves: anger, jealousy, depression, anxiety, any trauma, phobias, etc. And the second type of transcendental meditation is the one that we will learn today, meditation to achieve Samadhi. And today we will learn a very interesting and simple technique to reach that state of meditation using the koans. When one wants wisdom, one has no choice but to learn to meditate. To meditate is to enter the 6th and 7th dimensions, and this can only be done in one way, by gagging the ego and releasing the essence. That exercise, after you learn to do it, becomes very simple. The koans will help us gag the ego, so that we can release the essence. This way we can escape for a few moments and ascend to the higher dimensions, or heavens. As we saw in Lesson 5 and 6 where we were talking about dimensions, and where they are in us. We saw how the 7 basic dimensions that we find in nature also have a representation within us. Therefore, it is by accessing our inner world that we can connect with these dimensions. The first 5 dimensions within us are what we could call the earth, populated right now by a multitude of eyes or psychological defects. While in the 6th and 7th dimensions we will find the heavens, or the so-called kingdom of heaven. In the first part of the 6th dimension, we will find the causal world, and by accessing that world through meditation, we will be able to know the cause of all things. And then we will be able to know the cause or origin of each of our errors, or wrong ways of being. Therefore, there, we will receive important information that will help us advance in the disintegration of our ego. At the top of the 6th dimension, we will find the world of truth, the Buddhic world, where we will be able to evidence everything that is, what has been and what will be. And in the 7th dimension, we will connect directly with the great reality, or ocean of light, which is the source of all wisdom. There we can connect directly with Atman, our intimate. So, in this meditation we are going to make our essence ascend from the 3rd dimension, where our essence is, which is located within us at the level of the sexual center, up through the tunnel of light that is our spinal column, to the superior centers. Now, if you have ever tried to meditate, you will have realized that the mind is a terrible obstacle to achieving it. When we try to concentrate, all kinds of thoughts, emotions, and even sensations appear, and all of them are manifestations of our ego, which is not interested in us freeing ourselves. Therefore, to reach the state of meditation it will be necessary to gag the ego so that the essence can ascend. As we saw in the lecture on the law of the pendulum, our ego is dual. It constantly moves from positive to negative extreme, from pleasure to pain. Therefore, inside us, we will find all kinds of negative thoughts, emotions, and sensations, such as suffering, decadence, materialism, passivity, disgust, etc. Likewise, we are going to find thoughts, emotions, and sensations, at the other extreme, where we find activity, pleasure, sentimentality, euphoria, spiritualism, etc. If we achieve balance, if we manage to find the center, that critical point where neither one extreme nor the other manifests itself, we will find inner silence. Then we will attain stillness of mind. And how are we going to reach that middle point, the stillness of the mind? Well, we will do it using a very simple method. We will use the power of conscious imagination. And the first thing we will do is develop an evolutionary thought by imagining the process of growth, or development of something. It can be a fruit plant, a floral plant, an animal, the construction of a house, the formation of a human being, or anything you can easily imagine in as much detail as possible. A very simple example is to imagine that we plant some small seeds, and that they germinate until they sprout, the trunk grows, leaving leaves, buds, flowers, etc. Until it reaches the maximum point of its development, where it is vigorous, beautiful, and fragrant. In this way, we will be putting into activity the entire part corresponding to the positive extreme of our psychology. And immediately we will develop an involutionary thought. So, what we will do is imagine now, the entire process of decay and death of that. If we are imagining the development of a plant, we imagine how that plant begins to dry out, lose its flowers, turn yellow, then completely dry out and break, until there is nothing left of that beautiful plant. With this process, the entire negative extreme of our psychology is put into activity, and when we reach that point where nothing remains, the mind goes blank, and the stillness of the mind is experienced. At that moment we take advantage and launch the Koan, so that the ego is gagged, and thus the essence can easily escape and ascend to the higher dimensions. What is a Koan? A Koan is a question without an answer, generally paradoxical. The mind always tries to answer it in some way, but it can't because it doesn't know the answer. Then the thought process is exhausted, allowing essence to arise. The ego is silenced, and the essence is briefly released. There are many koans, but here I am going to leave you 4 that are quite effective. The first consists of asking ourselves. 2 hands clap and there is a sound. What is the sound of one hand? And we focus on how one sounds, and we wait for the answer until the essence escapes. The second is to ask ourselves, if all things are reduced to unity, what is unity reduced to? There we stay still waiting until it happens. The third is to ask ourselves, where is the truth? And there we are waiting for the answer. If the mind tries to give an answer, we ignore it, since it is not the truth, and we wait until the mind is exhausted without finding the answer and the essence escapes. The fourth is to ask ourselves, where is the void? And when we see the gap, we go there, because we are looking for a gap. Then we only ask ourselves, where is the void? Until we see the gap. The koan is necessary until the escape occurs. The first of all is very effective. You do this, imagine what one hand sounds like, and stay there until your essence is released. Something that is important to keep in mind is that we should only use one koan per practice. So, I am going to briefly explain the step-by-step of the practice, so that you are encouraged to do it. The first thing you should do is find a quiet place. You can practice it during the day, or during the night, in the office or anywhere where no one will bother you, or even in a space that you have dedicated to meditation. You will see the importance of having that kind of place. This is a place to seek power and wisdom, so it is a very special place. The second thing will be to harmonize the environment in which we are going to do the meditation, removing negative energies from the place with the Song of Belalan. And then close the environment so that negative energies cannot re-enter, and we will do this with the conjuration of the magic circle of protection. We saw these conjurations in Conference 7. The next thing will be to ask for the help of our inner being or God in us, to guide us in the practice. Then we will do a simple relaxation process to enter into harmony. We will relax our emotional part by breathing deeply for a few minutes, inhaling slowly and long through the nose, and exhaling through the mouth. We will relax our mind, concentrating for a few minutes on the sounds around us. Without identifying with them, we pay attention to a sound, let it go, and look for another sound. And so, looking for more and more distant sounds. Then sounds increasingly closer, until we return to our hearts. We will experience how the mind becomes silent. Then we move on to relaxing the physical body. A very simple relaxation, ensuring that the body is very comfortable, that nothing bothers it. It is recommended to go through the entire body, imagining a warm and bright light that relaxes it. When we feel relaxed, we move on to the next step. Here, we are going to put the evolutionary thought. We will imagine, in as much detail as possible, how we plant, for example, a rose seed. We imagine that we fertilize the land, plant the seed, put water on it, put it in the sun, and we are going to watch how it grows. We see how the sprouts begin to appear. These begin to bloom, and we imagine this process in great detail until the rose bush is full of beauty. You could even smell its aroma. At that point, we put the involutionary thought. Then we imagine how the petals begin to dry and wither. No more flowers are sprouting. The petals fall off. The plant begins to dry completely. The wind knocks down the plant, takes away the stems and dry leaves, until nothing remains of that plant. And that is when we will achieve the synthesis of thought, the stillness of the mind. So, we immediately apply the koan. For example, we ask ourselves the question: if these two hands clap and there is a sound, what is the sound of one hand? And there we are waiting for the answer. The koan will act as a barricade for the ego and the essence will be able to ascend freely. You will remain focused on the question until the escape is achieved. There are symptoms that you can feel that will let you know that you are reaching the state of meditation. You may feel that you begin to detach yourself from the physical world. You might start to see a tunnel of light and start to get sucked into this tunnel. Don't be scared, let yourself be carried towards the light. If you feel too afraid, then you need to work on your attachments, as we learned in the previous lecture. You might also find yourself consciously imagining or lucid dreaming, that you can move at will. You might feel dizzy. And another symptom is starting to feel a sense of unity, of becoming one with everything. I hope you are encouraged to do this practice. And remember to practice patiently until you achieve it, since practice makes perfect. And this was today's conference. Remember to leave us your questions in the comments. In the next conference, we will be learning another practice. A very simple and quite effective method to achieve astral projection, known as the jump. So don't miss the next conference. Thank you very much to all. Until next time.